Welcome to Engage, the show about civic engagement, brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Salem. The League is a nonpartisan grassroots organization open to all people, not just women. Our missions are to strengthen democracy and empower voters, but also to inform you about ways you can be more engaged with the community. And today's episode we are doing in collaboration with SAFE, Salem Alliance for the Environment. SAFE brought to our attention Mr. Mario Sosa, the Career and Technical Education Director and Co-op Coordinator here at Salem High School. You will find out in this interview why SAFE thought we would be so interested and our viewers would be so interested given the enormous amount of interest we have in education and the environment in particular. So here we go. Mr. Sosa, can you give us a sense of who you are, your background, how you came to be involved in CTE, Career and Technical Education, and how you came to lead the program here at Salem High School?
My name is Mario Souza. I am a product of vocational schools. I came to the United States when I was 12 from Portugal. And as an ML student, it was kind of my path at that point to go into vocational. Something that was essentially, if they're not college going, that's where they're going to go, is to vocational. And that was the mentality at that point, was if you're not going to go to college, vocational is the exception that you should go to. After graduating from there, I started my successful construction company, and then was always part of the educational world and support of CTE. So CTE has always been something that I was always passionate about because it did give me the training I needed to be successful in my life. And that training didn't require college right after high school. It's something that I did go to college afterwards and did get my degree. But it goes to show that CTE doesn't close opportunities. It just opens up additional opportunities. College going after CTE courses is something that's very normal nowadays. In fact, a lot of CTE students graduate and do go to post-secondary opportunities. And that's why I wanted to stay in CTE, is to really open up that opportunity bucket for all students, where CTE is a viable possibility, and the programs within CTE, for the most part nowadays, all require some sort of post-secondary training. And I was brought into education in 2012, but started as a substitute teacher in a painting and decorating program, and I fell in love with education. I always liked passing on my skill. So as a tradesman, I always liked passing on my skill. And doing it so in an educational setting just formalized that training, I guess. And I'm able to do it at a younger age. So kids are leaving high school prepared to go into the workforce or prepared to go into college, and have a very good understanding of what careers are there and what careers they're interested in, which gives them a much better standing when they go to college and know, or go to wherever, and they know what they want to do, or at least not want to do, which is just as important. After I became a teacher, I really wanted to see if I could create more opportunity, and that's why director was kind of the next step up, to try to not just create that training in my carpentry program, but do it in a larger scale and have more programs doing that for all students. I was fortunate enough to land here in Salem a couple years back as they had the director position open, and the immense support that I've gotten from the community, administration, is truly what has changed CTE. I've just been lucky enough to have been the driver of that change. But without community support, such as SAFE, such as Salem Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, the partnership, as well as my school committee and superintendent, the principal, and families, if we don't have that support, we wouldn't have been able to do what we have done so far.
Oh, okay. So that brings me right to our next question. Can you paint a broad picture of the CTE program here at Salem High School? What are all of the offerings, actually?
Yeah. So we have 10 different pathways. 8 programs, 10 different pathways, and those constitute of some Chapter 74 programs, which is essentially a state credentialing for career tech ed programs. Essentially, the state says that that program operates as they want it to operate. It has connections to business, it has advisory partners, it has a course sequence, and they graduate with industry certificates. So within all of our pathways, students will graduate not only with the 900 hours of competency in that specific field, but they'll also graduate with additional credentials. So OSHA safety, Surf Safe for culinary students, CCMA for our clinical medical assistant students, automotive technicians, they'll graduate with OSHA, and Toyota technician entry level 1. So the big picture of CTE is that we want to have all students graduate with the bare minimum is just a diploma. They're all going to graduate with a diploma. So now we want to give them that little extra. So diploma plus. Being able to participate in our programs gives them those extra credentials, extra experiences. And the way they access it is exploratory is our freshman year. So as students come to the high school, we offer exploratory, and it is exactly what it sounds like. They explore. They explore all our programs here at the high school for about 2 weeks. They do an immersive hands-on project. So they go into the program, they learn about the program, what are the different opportunities within the industry, what is the educational needs of that specific industry, what is the normal path for someone to be successful in that industry. And then they do a hands-on project so they can see what they do in that field. Our automotive students get to change some oil, get to change, rotate tires, check oil pressure and tire pressure, brakes. And our carpentry students go through tool safety, how to use a drill properly, how to use a skill saw properly, how to create a square little trinket box or something that they do in that field. Our medical assisting students learn how to do CPR.
Wow.
So if you partake in our CTE program at the end of senior year, you graduate not only with your OSHA for safety credentials, but you do graduate with your first aid CPR AED certification as well as part of that. That's all CTE students. And that's just how do we make our kids more attractive to employers. And coming into the new position, if you have extra certificates and you have that extra practice, you're going to be more hireable than the next person. And that's what we want to create for our students.
Seems very empowering too to the students that you're giving them like real skills that are marketable and just valuable.
Exactly. So, I mean, they get all of those skills through the exploratory program. So they get a little bit of skills, lifelong skills in every program. But then at the end of exploratory, they get to choose what program they want to know more about. So at the end of exploratory here at Salem, we're moving it this year towards the end of third quarter. So at the end of third quarter, they all come together and they all decide, okay, these are my 3 top programs. And we try to get them onto their first choice, obviously, but some programs do sell out, so to speak. We have a program that one year had 45 seats. Our culinary program last year had 45 students wanting culinary 1. Unfortunately, we only had 38 seats. So it goes through a lottery process. The first 38 seats in a random order get into that program. And then the rest that weren't unable to get in, they get into a wait list. And a lot of the times they'll go into their second, and they have then the option to either move to their first if the space is available or stay within their second. A lot of times what happens is they stay in their seconds, they realize, oh wait, I actually like this one better, which is good. I like that. But we want to make sure that by the end of freshman year, they know which one they're going to be in. So the last remaining couple of months of freshman year, they kind of get to explore their target or their main choice. And then at the end of freshman year, we kind of just do an assessment. Is this where you want to stay for the next 3 years? For the most part, we have an excellent retention rate at the end of freshman year. It's about 95% last year decided to stay within the CTE program, which means that they now move into level 1, which is their sophomore class, 2 blocks within their specific program. Junior year, they take an additional 2 blocks within their specific program. And then senior year, they take 3 blocks. But within those 3 blocks, they can actually go out, not only just in internships or externships, which some of our programs do require as part of the certification process. They can actually go out and A, earn credit towards their course, and B, start earning a paycheck towards their field of choice.
And making connections.
And making those networking connections, which is the biggest thing in any industry, is knowing people that can facilitate other options for you.
And in the early years, is that where they're getting in their sort of language, social science, general science, all those other classes?
Yep, so they
Language?
Yep. So we still follow all of the math score requirements. They all get 4 years of English, math, history. They meet all of their requirements. We are an elective essentially. So we're essentially kind of like a double major almost. They meet all of their math score requirements, which is obviously their first requirement as a high school student. But then they meet our CTE requirements, which is strict a minimum 900 hours of training in their program with industry certifications and credentials.
So this is a very rigorous program, but you said you also had a 95% continuation rate.
I do.
That's amazing.
Our exploratory numbers is really have really gone up over the past couple of years. When I first started here, it was right around the mid 100s, or actually lower 100s, so 125, 130. Over the past couple of years, our exploratory numbers are over 200.
Wow.
So last year was over 220, I believe. This year, I believe we're at 209.
So that brings me to our next question, which was how many students participate in the program and what are the demographics? I think folks would be interested in hearing more about the students.
Very good. So we have about 70% of the Salem High School class in CTE programs. The freshman class, we have approximately 90% to 95% of the freshman class this year partaking in exploratory. As a whole, we have about 70% of Salem High students in CTE programs. Demographically, they represent the Salem High School student body, so predominantly Latinx. But my point on that one is I really want to try to break down the gender biases in some of our programs. Demographically, I think we do well. There's a very good mix of our students in every single program. On the gender side, we have a couple of programs where they're non-traditional. So, for example, carpentry is a non-traditional program for women. So it's not a program that has a lot of girls typically. So we're trying to break down that kind of biases. Oh, girls don't do that program, or men don't do medical assisting. It's like, no, that's not the case. And any gender
not in the real world,
right? Not in the real world. Any gender can do whatever field you want. And part of our goal with that is to really bring in people from the community and former graduates that resemble who they are. Thankfully, I was a carpentry teacher. I have several girls that graduated from my carpentry program that have gone to be successful in the carpentry field. So bringing folks like that have graduated from a CT program, that were that non-traditional number, to really break down that biases and come talk to our exploratory students before they do their selections, and really remind them that don't make your selections based on what your gender typically does or what your friends are going to do, based on what you like to do.
You might spend the rest of your life doing it.
Right, exactly. And if you like to do something, it doesn't matter what gender typically does it. As long as you're good at it and you like doing it, that's what's important.
Cool. Our next question, SAFE sent us in your direction for many reasons, but one is to learn about the ways you see opportunity to integrate sustainability into the CTE programs, and how to make sustainability like a tangible goal.
Tangible field, absolutely. So I, as a contractor, carpenter by trade, I've always, shouldn't say always, recently, over the past like 10, 15 years, I really got involved within the sustainability of the building industry, and more specifically, green building. My goal is to make that part of our curriculum. Not just, you're going to learn just this X field. Every single one of our fields has some connection to sustainability practices, from food sources in the kitchen to reusing computer technology in our computer programming and web. So how do we teach kids about sustainable practices in every single one of those fields, to then make a larger connection that this in itself is an industry that you can be very successful in from an array of different backgrounds. So you will have computer science people that are going to need to be in sustainable industry for data analytics and measuring data and all of that stuff. You're going to need carpenters, you're going to need welders, you're going to need mechanics. We want to be able to introduce all types of sustainability practices for every single one of those fields. Specifically in our construction field, with the offshore wind project coming in, really trying to target training for offshore wind installation.
Well, you've brought me to one of our most important questions, I think, from the SAFE point of view, but also from the League of Women's point of view, because we have a very active working group in environmental issues and the climate crisis. So, as our viewers probably know, Salem is poised to host an offshore wind marshalling yard, which should be operating in a few years, hopefully. It's going to be supporting projects to the south, but also to the north as floating offshore wind is developed more. And our port with its deep water access is uniquely accessible for deep water. Could you tell us what programs you offer that give students insight into offshore wind career pathways?
Specific programs that really target the offshore wind industry is our electrical program. That is one field that we know specifically we're going to need a lot of electricians. So we really want to make sure that in our electrical program, they are familiar with green energy sources, from electric vehicles to the installation of offshore wind. Which is the reason why we really wanted to target those trainers, is to really bring in hands-on opportunities for the kids to try offshore wind. Talking about it, it's just talk. It's not the kids. If the kids can't see it and actually visualize what it is when we say offshore wind, it's hard for a student to see it. And bringing in trainers as well as partners to go over those specifics and talk about what are the needs in that industry is the critical point that's missing right now. Is what is the need? So we know we're going to need contractors. We know we're going to need construction workers. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Does that mean you're going to need 90% electricians? And what does that 90% mean? Is that 1,000 or is that 5,000? How many? That's our biggest ask, is what is the forecast of how many people we're going to need in what specific industry we're going to need them in. And not just so general. We're going to need 5,000 people. Great. In what? That's the part that we really are lacking here at Salem High School, and something that we've been working with our partners to try to develop. But it's not there yet.
But it's coming?
But it's coming. Yeah. So right now I'm hopeful it's coming. So right now we're trying to go with a large net to kind of cover a couple of different programs covering offshore wind. So electrical is one of them, with its big broadband of electricians are going to be a high need for that. And then marine service technicians is something that has also been identified as a possible high need in the industry. So not only is there a high need in the offshore wind industry, but there's also a need in small engine repairs and marine service technicians within that industry in itself. So that's why we're targeting that specific industry, is to create two opportunities. You can either go specifically into just marine services technology and small engines, or you can use your marine services experience to become an offshore wind technician.
Wow. So you are, your programs are really exposing kids to a wide variety of career possibilities. Like, I don't want to judge by my own limited background, but when I was a student, I might have thought about being an electrician working on houses. But you're telling students and you're bringing in trainers to talk to them about offshore wind. Like, it's not necessarily about putting electrical into a house. There's a whole wide field out there you can choose from. And the same with mechanical things. You could be automotive, but you could also be marine. I don't know if I would have thought of that. I would need a teacher you to tell me.
I think that's the biggest thing about career technical education is that our training focuses on transferable skills, which I think is what people really struggle with. It was like, or if you're going to go into carpentry or if you're going to go into auto mechanics, that's all you're going to do. You're going to be an auto mechanic or you're going to be a carpenter. It's like, yes, that is one possibility. You could swing a hammer for the rest of your life if that's what you so choose. You can change oil for the rest of your life if you so choose. But there's so much more. You can go into the carpentry field, and I have students that I can call back on it, and they're supervisors. They're construction supervisors. They oversee projects. They do not carry around a tool belt. They do not. They, in fact, actually walk around in casual clothes, but they boss around contractors. They went through the carpentry program because it exposes them to the construction industry. So we want to just, yes, this is one option, but we want to open up all the other options within that pathway, which in most pathways, there are so many opportunities that some of us don't even know about. Most of us don't even know about, and some of them haven't even been created.
That's true. And marine-oriented and offshore wind-oriented seems to make a lot of sense for Salem if folks are going to stay in this neighborhood after they graduate.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, you brought up another new question. We know just as work evolves, so do your programs. So do you have any visions for the future that you'd like to share with us, like about sustainability or new careers, whatever?
Yeah. So we are actually on the precipice of launching our new Career Tech Initiative program. That is a career tech ed program offered to adults in the community.
Whoa.
So it's essentially an adult training program. We want to be able to take community members who are either unemployed or underemployed, or recent graduates who didn't take CTE or took it, but now they're not really sure they want to be in that field, they want to try something else. If they meet the criteria of the CTI grant, which is a state funded grant for Career Tech Initiative, they can partake in a 12 to 13 week long course where they go through the basic entry-level skills. The courses have been designed with our partners in those industries. So, for example, our facilities maintenance course has been designed in partnership with Gold Construction and I forget I'm sorry, AJ Construction. I was blanking. And they essentially said, okay, as an entry-level employee, I need them to know X, Y, and Z, and we target our adult ed training to what our employers that are going to be looking at these candidates to see if they have positions within their industry, and we teach them what those partners want them to know. So it's really targeted for a specific industry, targeted with already a couple of partners in mind. So at the end of the training, we also assist with that employment so they can be successful afterwards.
So that also makes Salem High School even more of a community asset because it's not just high school age people, but adults now.
Correct.
That's
and the part that I really want to harp on that is Salem High School needs to be that community asset. We see for the most part, we see every single kid that goes through, that lives in Salem, through Salem Public Schools. What better way than to be always connected to that one facility or one structure that gave you the opportunities and will continue to support you even afterwards. Something that I'm very big about is following up with my former students. What are they doing? Are they still in the same industry? Are they successful? Do they need additional supports to get back on track and become successful?
Wow, that's a very different model than what some people might be used to, where you graduate and that's the end of it.
You're on your own. Fortunately, in CTE, we are required to do a 1 year follow-up essentially after graduation. We take that a step further. We do a 1, a 3, and a 5.
Cool.
Just to kind of see what things are. You don't know if a kid graduated college in 1 year, but you might in 3, you might in 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good to know. Where are our kids going? Do we need to adjust our training? So it's something that we always want to look and see if we're meeting the students' needs.
All right, let's see, we're getting to our last questions. Nearly all of the jobs tied to offshore wind at our port are union jobs. Can you speak to how unions support the CTE mission here at Salem High School?
In general, we have strong support from the Carpenters Union, the Laborers Union, and the Electrical Union. They are all on our advisory board within those programs, and they work with our students. They work with our teachers on what the students need to learn. They connect for donations. They work with curriculum. Carpenters Union specifically, we use the Carpenters curriculum. They come in and do info sessions. I think our biggest ask of the unions is working with the vocational schools to create training modules or training curriculums similar to what the Carpenters Union has, where the vocational schools can start that training in high school. Once they graduate, they can get into the union already with a 1-year step up. Because they've completed 3 years in a CTE high school, they've gotten this X amount of training, it will correlate to either 6 months into the union or a year into the union. This, I think, would create a more enticing opportunity for our kids to go into the union because they already have built up experience through the high school experience, and a better access point for all students. Where currently, if the union isn't partnered with us, students have to go all the way into Boston or wherever they're hosting their info sessions to learn about them. So we try to facilitate that. As far as getting kids to those sessions, we would like to have unions partner with us to come to the high schools and do those info sessions or virtual info sessions for high school students, because not all schools can get to their info sessions. Not all students can get into their info sessions.
And it seems like just yet another thing that students might not be familiar with from their own background. Like how do you become a union member? Like what?
Unions is tricky. I mean, I was non-union until I became an educator, and it took me a while to learn unions and how to navigate, and they're all different. You can't even say all the trade unions are all the same. They're all different. They all operate differently. They all have different info sessions. They all have different requirements. We just try to break down those barriers and try to streamline it for our kids.
Yet again, you have brought me to another question. Could you talk to us more about exposure points, barriers, and challenges for your students, and how Salem Public Schools and Salem High School are well equipped to support students?
So, access points into CTE have been limited just because it's been only through when they get to 9th grade, they can participate in exploratory, and then 7th and 8th grade, they get a little bit of an info session. They would have someone go down and talk about CTE as an opportunity. So those access points are limited. Not a lot of kids knew about it, and if they did, it was a very limited knowledge about it. So we're trying to break that down a little further, and we're actually pushing down CTE into the middle schools.
Excellent.
So students now in Salem, as 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, will be able to start exploring CTE curriculum. They will have an intro to life sciences, construction science, and foods and nutrition. And that's a way these are different careers. These are different industries. So when they come up to the high school, they know what careers are. Right? They know what CTE can offer them because they've already been familiar with CTE through our involvement in the middle school level. And because they've already had that experience, it's more likely that they will stay within the district rather than go somewhere else for school.
Probably build excitement to be going to high school.
Yeah. It creates, I feel connected. Mm-hmm. I want to go here because that's where I feel connected to. And that's what we're really trying to push is we want you to be part of our community. We want students to be our community. So we need to make sure that they feel comfortable here and that they feel wanted.
So Salem students from middle school will be enthusiastic about going to Salem High School. And
that's the goal.
That's excellent. All right, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover? A question I should have asked but didn't know to.
I think you did a very good job covering everything. My only thing is if anyone in the community wants to learn more about CTE or wants to see our students in action, I'm always here available to do tours and show you around our facilities and show our kids in action.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and for tours of the facility.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to Salem Access Television and to our partners at Salem Alliance for the Environment, SAFE.